My dad cheated on my mom with someone my age. I'll try to make this short and concise as I possibly can without ranting. My dad cheated on my mom multiple times during 30 years of marriage, with 2 kids. There is so much he did, and if necessary I will add more information, but I believe this is enough to get the gist. I'm not sure how to go about this, especially because this will be behind South Korea's law. My family, mom plus sister plus me, live in America, while my dad works and lives in South Korea. We went to visit his house this summer and found information that concluded he was cheating for 10+ years. After learning this, we took a flight back to America the next day. We found letters from the women and condoms, and one of the women have concise information, physically printed out nudes, of her and my dad. So the lawyer we were talking to said this could be information used to confirm cheating. We believe this was also possibly a decade ago when she was around my age, early 20s. However, the other woman seemed to have had a deeper connection. She was divorced by her husband for cheating on him with my dad. 10+ years ago, her husband sent my mom an email letting her know this. They fought, but it was concluded it was another man. I think that's also a lie since he's always lying. Even if we reached out for help, he would still probably be on his ex-wife's side since they had a child that she raised. I think he knows too, since my dad visits his graduation and drives him to school, but he must be cool with it. That woman is known to be messy with multiple men too. Something these 2 women have in common is that they were workers in my dad's company he owns. Is there anything to do about the fact that he dates every woman that works for him? It seemed all the women were satisfied with him or the money or whatever he had to offer. He also had something going on with another female worker roughly 20 years ago. So it seems he's f***ing every woman he works with. My mom used to co-own this company and work here until she moved to America. He promised to make money for our family, but sent my mom $10,000 a year after nagging for basic necessities. For a family of 3, living in J2, I believe he makes $200,000 a year. He always boasted about sending us money, so I assumed it was his money. Turns out it was mostly my mother's savings, and recently she's been running out so we can barely afford to live. Every time we use money, he complains. I was promised an iPad for my birthday last year, but he forgot to. So when we went back to America, my mom ordered it with his card since it was the gift I was promised. He canceled the order and the card. The actions he's done were inhumane. He still met up with his other women while his family was with him in Korea, even though my mother told him not to. Yells at us and hit me before during arguments. So much more. I barely recognize who this man is. It's hard to get back at him. He doesn't like his family, us. His family, parents, are completely on his side and would probably blame my mom for the cheating. These women don't care. He's a bawling married man with 2 kids nearing 60. The only thing that we can get back at him with is his money, which I don't know how to. No one there is on our side. His workers are on his side too, obviously. The women that he cheated with were all my mother's friends before my dad's itch. So obviously not on our side. Even the law isn't. The lawyers keep saying our evidence isn't the best, especially for the divorced women. And because a lot of the evidence is 10+ years old, it doesn't count. But we only recently found out he's been cheating for 10+ years. The law is clearly on his side. The splitting of his property is 5:5 max apparently, but he could be sabotaging it in order to give us as less money as possible. How do I ruin this man's life? He doesn't seem to have anything to lose. We also have to be extremely careful because anything can be used against us in court, and even though we're the victims of his disgusting actions, we aren't at the advantage either. I don't even know what to ask for help with. I feel awful. There's nothing I can do for my mother. If anyone has faced similar situations, it would also help to know what you have done or would suggest. I know things will be different in South Korea, but any sort of help would be appreciated. Now to the next story, Story 2. Some struggle. Need advice. I'm struggling to understand the way my wife feels and expresses love. I feel that I always need to be perfect for her, and when I am perfect, she is very loving and rewards me with affection. When I am anything less than perfect, she pushes me away and completely shuts down, as if I'm a stranger or a tumor she is trying to excise from her life. I am a very intelligent, successful, and responsible adult. I am not as responsible as my wife, but I don't believe anyone on the planet is as responsible as my wife. She is responsible to a fault, and if she thinks that she is setting a level that all others must meet, it's no wonder that she is regularly disappointed. She doesn't approve of anything that goes against her perception of responsible living. There is no bending of any rules or standards. She expects me and others in her life to have the same perspective and approach to all things. At times, she displays textbook narcissistic behaviors. She is always so concerned about how my actions will impact her and how it will reflect on her that she does not even seem to comprehend that I am a living, breathing human with my own internal struggles, and that maybe, just maybe, it's my thoughts and feelings that need to be addressed in a compassionate and loving manner and not her knee-jerk reactions, which are invariably negative. I cannot have an open and honest conversation with my partner because she shuts down completely and is unwilling to even speak to me about her feelings. We've been together for 11 years, and she still seems to always be looking for a way out. She is almost excited to uncover my flaws because it helps her build arguments against me. We can never have an argument or discussion because she has never and will never accept anyone else's opinion other than her own. She is right about everything, all the time. There is no room for discussion. She is able to jump to conclusions, many times based upon speculation or an initial impression. There is only one negative emotion she expresses, and that is anger. She's never embarrassed, frustrated, sad, nostalgic, or introspective. She's just angry, and I cannot understand that. I am such a highly emotional and empathetic person that I struggle to make sense of an emotional persona that is so restrictive and unyielding. Despite what I see as her emotional flaws, I love her so much. More than anything in the world. I love her so much that I hurt when I disappoint her. I hurt when she's frustrated and angry. All I want to do is to comfort her, support her, and help her make sense of the emotions spinning in her head. But she rejects so much of my compassionate nature when she is angry. It's like she expects me to be nothing more than a tool in her life to make her life easier and not a partner to share life struggles. She is my life and my future, and there shouldn't be anything in the world we cannot share. If she is struggling, I will support her and love her. If she makes a mistake, I will support her and love her. If she is stressed, overworked, and walking a tightrope of emotion, I will support her and love her. But I don't necessarily feel that reciprocated, and that's one of the core reasons I am struggling. She loves me when I'm perfect. She doesn't seem to love me when I'm not. I have my problems, like everyone else. I tend to be more of a go-with-the-flow person, while she is a much more controlling and rigid person. That has been the subject of some consternation in the past. I am a gambling addict. I have been in recovery for nearly 7 years and have not placed a bet in that time. My nature as a compulsive person is something that I'm not sure how to overcome. Because she is responsible to a fault, she believes that rigorous control and obsessive planning is the solution to my issues. She simply does not understand that permanently living under a rigorously planned calendar increases my stress levels exponentially. We problem solve and manage time in vastly different ways. I love that her way of planning her life works so well for her. I love that it gives her comfort. As a much more open-minded person in the relationship, I have adapted some of her techniques to my own lifestyle, with mostly positive results. But restricting myself and my life to a schedule on a page renders me incapable of feeling any positive emotion, or negative emotion for that matter, save the stress brought from trying to stick to such a rigid lifestyle. I don't know how to express this to her in a way she will understand. If I try to start a discussion about it, she will deflect and retort with personal attacks on my character and actions. I know that I cannot handle stress well. I have been having panic attacks since I was 14 years old and have been on medication since I was 16. Struggling with stress is a daily battle for me. I have learned some techniques, but my most problematic and common response to overwhelming stress is to escape. This is what enabled my gambling addiction to take root. It became so prevalent and insidious that any stress at all, including very normal tasks like researching a paper for work, would induce an escape into the dream world of gambling. I have learned in my recovery differing ways to avoid this escape reaction and to confront stress and stressful situations responsibly rather than reactionary. My need and action to escape has diminished over the years during my recovery, but it has not abated entirely, and I'm not sure that it ever will. I am still compulsive to a fault. I fall into compulsion traps. Things like smartphone app games and online chess and fad diets, podcasts, and alcohol have all been escape compulsions in the past 7 years. When I fall into a trap, I can typically work my way out of it. Sometimes this is triggered by my wife's anger at me. Sometimes it's triggered by my own initiative. Regardless, her reaction is always to have me talk to my therapist or to a GA sponsor or friend. She never wants to deal with these struggles as a couple. She wants to remain insulated from them as if they are only a struggle of the part of me that she can distance herself from and not love, so that she can rationalize to herself that I am two different people and that my negative aspects belong to someone she does not love. Recently, I have been under more stress than I can recall at any other point of my working career. I am on nearly 24/7 with work. I have responded to emails and voicemails at 3 a.m., 10 p.m., whenever. I have been conducting a highly sensitive ethical investigation into a few of our employees, and I am going to have to fire a good friend who hid improper activities from the rest of the staff. It's gut-wrenching. I know she needs this job, and I feel awful that this is going to impact not only her well-being but her future employment efforts. She definitely did this herself and is the one ultimately responsible, but I am the person who is going to have to confront her and take away her livelihood and the financial security of her children. It pains me inside almost as much as if I lost a loved one. This stress has caused me to backslide into escapism a bit. I downloaded a game on my phone that I used to be addicted to just as a means of stress relief. I immediately felt myself pulled back into it, and after 3 weeks, I know I needed to delete the app. After deleting and re-downloading it several times, I finally was able to subdue the urge. I also began compulsively drinking alcohol on the weekends. For the past 2 months, I have drank beer and/or liquor every Saturday night as a means of escapism. I do not have an alcohol-specific urge or tendency. I am fine not drinking for months at a time. I am fine having 1 beer with dinner or 2 drinks at a barbecue or something. This is a different type of drinking. This is me using alcohol to escape from my stress. I fear that these stress reactions may lead me back to gambling. My wife got really angry at me for staying up late playing video games with friends and drinking 4 to 5 beers on a work night. That crossed a line for her. And for me as well. It was a higher level of escapism and irresponsibility, and I take agency of that. But I need my wife to help me through this, and instead she has shut me out. So I don't know where to turn. I spoke with my therapist and she is helpful, but I only see her 1 hour every 2 weeks. I turn to my parents and they are supportive, but they are also getting older, and I don't want to burden them with more of my lifelong compulsion and escapism struggles, as they have dealt with that enough in their lives. I am a better person than I was 7 years ago, but I am not, by any means, perfect, or even above average. I think I'm an average person with average faults. I hope to keep improving and strengthening my character. Next story, Story 3. Cheating GF for 2 years. Never told this story to anyone about my ex, mostly because I was so embarrassed by it. Now, writing this down, I remember how naive and blindly in love I was. I, 25M, started dating this girl, 20F, I matched with on Tinder. Everything was great. She was super attractive, and I enjoyed her company. We had a long-distance relationship for most of our time together, 40 minutes away the first year, and then 4 hours away when she started studying in a different city. I didn't mind a bit of long distance because I was busy working during the weekdays, so I could only meet her on weekends. She was doing a language exchange course, and I knew she would have to go back to her country after that. But she had a plan to start studying at a university after her language exchange, which gave me hope that it might actually work out. So, the first year was pretty great. It was my first more serious relationship, so I was trying to be the best boyfriend I could. She, on the other hand, was always making me jealous and insecure during our time together. But I always tried to keep that to myself because I hated being controlling or showing insecurities. I thought that's what a good boyfriend does. She was going out a lot during the week to nightclubs. Sometimes her phone was turned off, and there was no reply for ages. I'm not a big texter, so I usually didn't mind unless she was out with her friends. Anyway, more and more suspicions grew that she might be unfaithful. The day she had to move back to her country for 3 months before starting her university, I helped her pack her stuff and throw things she didn't need. In her drawer, I found multiple condoms. I wouldn't have minded, but we hadn't been using condoms for the last 6 months of our relationship. So I asked her why she had them, and she convinced me they were just for safety. 3 months without seeing each other was not as bad as I expected. We texted each other, called every few days, and kept the spark going in other ways. But she always had a higher sex drive than me, which made me even more insecure when she constantly reminded me how horny she was and how badly she needed it. But I thought she was just sharing her feelings, and as long as she loved me, there was nothing to worry about. Finally, 3 months passed, and she was back in my country. I took a week off from my job and helped her settle into the student accommodation. Life was great. After I left, the next day, I noticed that she started getting new followers on IG from other guys. I had a bad feeling that she might be using Tinder, so I installed it, changed my location to hers, and started swiping to see if I could find her profile. Soon enough, I saw her profile, with photos I had taken of her that week. My heart sank. I took a screenshot, wrote a huge message to her about how she could do that, and I blocked her for a week. Again, being so naive and blindly in love, I texted her after a week asking for an explanation. She replied and convinced me that she wasn't meeting anyone. She just wanted compliments and attention because she wasn't feeling great in a new city. I forgave her and believed her, as I still didn't have 100% proof of her cheating, only suspicions. During the next year, there were many red flags, such as a used condom behind her bed. I convinced myself it was from previous students who lived there. And her comments about watching cheating porn, apparently, she was only joking. One evening while I was visiting her, I had her phone in my hand to change the music on a speaker. She received a text message from a random number asking, "Are you working tonight?" That threw me off because she didn't have a job, apart from being a nanny in the first year. She always let me know when she was working. She didn't let me have her phone for long and requested it back anxiously. I knew something was wrong. The next day, she went to university while I stayed at her place. I had access to her laptop, which means I had access to her Facebook and Instagram. I discovered she was still meeting her ex during the first few months of our relationship, if not longer, and meeting other guys at the same time. She was meeting guys she matched with on Tinder and her university friend. That was enough for me. I started packing my stuff and waited for her so I could also check her phone. When she arrived, I demanded to see her phone. She threw a tantrum but finally gave in. To be honest, I wish I hadn't checked. I already had proof and should have just moved on. What I found in her phone was even worse than what I found on her laptop. Apparently, she was working as an escort for the last 2 months, and everything just started making sense. I left, blocked her, and never talked about it. Thinking about it all now, I realize how stupid and naive I was. But I try to convince myself that I did it for a good reason, trying to trust a person. Now I have my boundaries, I know my values, and I don't tolerate this bullshit. It feels good to let this all out.